have an exciting episode for you packed today. We have an amazing host, and guess what? More information for you. So let's jump into it. The news has been ongoing and ongoing. Oh my God, can you believe it has just been 3 months to the start of the year? It feels like every single week there's something else going, whether it's in sports with LeBron and Stephen A, or whether it's with our President Trump, or whether it's with our Vice President, Elon Musk. But lots to unpack here today. So I wanted to dive in first and let us discuss the American dream. It is something that we all have pursued. Whether you are an immigrant, whether you are born and raised here in the country, the American dream, well, some can say it has changed, right? It used to be the picket fence, making your salary, retiring at 65, taking your vacation, having your kids, the dog, and that's life. Everybody chased it. Everybody dreamt of it. Everybody saw it on their cable TV, whether you're inside of the country or outside of the country. But what is the American dream to you today? Well, it has changed. It's now significantly broader. It's whatever you make it to be, right? It still involves you being able to have your bottle of Saratoga water and have your morning routine and be able to make a successful living that way. Or it is you owning multiple properties and living in one that you actually rent. But it still boils down to a couple of fundamentals, which is freedom, right? There is a freedom of speech. Now we have people free to live in the life that they've always wanted to be. They can also choose the sex that they want to be. I mean, well, that might change a little bit under this administration. But a lot of it is the freedom, right? The freedom to pursue your dreams, the freedom to have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And my life has been a complete testimony of that. And the clients that I represent have been a testimony of that. But we all are in some pursuit when we wake up, whether it's the bills that we're chasing, whether it's the happiness, whether it's the relationship, whether it's to get that perfect Instagram moment, or whether it's just to be an influencer or a gamer. The United States has it, it protects it, and you can chase it. So what has been changing, right? Under the Trump administration, we have seen some good things and some controversial things. In terms of the controversial things, of course, there is immigration, right? And if you are American, you are watching this. If you are born and raised here, you're saying, yes, get those people out. They entered here illegally. They need to wait their turn. They need to do it the right way, just like everybody else. Get them out, right? And that has been the rhetoric today, and it has been the rhetoric since immigrants started coming to this country. But guess what? America has built the culture of bringing in immigrants. It has built the culture of come to the United States, bring your weak, bring your sick. If you're facing persecution, you can come here as a place of refuge. So here we are, right? We now have over 11 million undocumented immigrants. But what I want you to understand, the American, is that undocumented, it doesn't mean that you entered the country illegally. Yes, there are people that enter the country legally, but you have people who enter the country legally and somehow they lost that status, whether they fell in love, whether they came for work as a professor, an attorney, an athlete, and they did not do the right things to change their status. But they're still here, right? They are now enriched in the American fabric. They have started families. They have started businesses. They were given jobs, right? And they were given a place to stay. So here we are with now this issue of getting these people out, sending them back to where they came from, but are we going about it the right way? Because now you have people who entered legally. We now have the students who came in on their F1, their student visas, like many people in this country, like many people who are judges, teachers, right? Your neighbor next door, the person who is serving you at Starbucks. They came here on student visas, and guess what? They overstayed, which is extremely common. It's even higher than the person that crossed the border illegally. So should these people be given an opportunity to make their situation right? Should these people be given an opportunity to and not be taken out of their class, taken out of their homes and sent back to the country after they have invested, but they made a mistake. We all make mistakes. So as we are looking at it today, the three industries that are being impacted the most by immigration, right? Whether it's lawful or unlawful, it's agriculture, construction, and hospitality. Yes, construction is 31% immigrants, agriculture, 43%, and hospitality, 28%. And guess which states rely on these industries the most out of all 51 states? It's California, Florida, Texas, New York. And guess what? These are the states that have the highest and the most significant ICE presence. So let's take a step back, right? If we were to remove all of the undocumented immigrants, and remember, undocumented immigrants means you came here illegally or you came here legally, but at this point in time, you no longer have status. So if we were to remove all these people from these industries, this is the trickle-down effect, right? These are the numbers that we're getting, and you can research them yourselves. It's $1.7 trillion in loss over the next 10 years if we were to remove people from these industries, right? The agriculture industry would collapse by $30 billion and a continuous loss. And guess what? Right now, as we speak, farmers cannot replace 50 to 60% of the workers that they are losing due to deportation. There will be a construction slowdown, right? And that delay that would cost Americans, yes, it would cost you $100 billion in delayed projects. And these aren't numbers that I'm making up. You can ask AI, ChatGPT, and Google it yourself. This is from the Pew Research. You can look it up yourself, right? And last but not least, hospitality, right? Vegas, New York City hotels, restaurants, Disney, they would all face significant decline. And the trickle-down effect of the loss of income, the loss of jobs, the loss of infrastructure, the closing of farms, hotels, all of that will be affected. And these are the numbers that they are not talking about, right? For every one deportation, there will be 2 American jobs that will be affected, right? And guess what? For my millennials and my Gen Zs, if ICE was to remove all farm workers today, guess how much your avocado toast will go up to? $26. So, these are serious numbers, people. And guess what? Your latte, your macchiato at Starbucks, it definitely will be affected. Yes, you in your $500,000 home or your $1 million home, your projects will be delayed because these are direct effects of immigration, right? It is a culture of bringing people in to facilitate work, right? And guess what? The farmers, the construction companies, the hotel owners, they have been trying to hire Americans. If you go right now, there are jobs on Indeed, and they all say the same thing. The jobs aren't filled by Americans, right? And if they do get filled, they are somehow, they start for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and they're like, you know what? Uber Eats and streaming is significantly easier. So let's deport this rhetoric, right? Let's keep the workers. Let's try to come up with something that is common sense, something that makes sense to the average American, not to the immigrant, to the average American. Will Americans go and fill these jobs? Will American companies pay the $35 an hour to the American worker to go to the farms, to go to the hotel, or to take care of your parent that is now in a retirement home? Because guess what? In retirement homes, it's significantly made up of immigrant workers. Let me hear your thoughts. And without further ado, our guest, Mr. Razell Smart.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate you. I know you're a busy man in these days. So for you to take the time out, greatly appreciative.
Always a pleasure to be on your show, man. Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's just jump straight into it, all right?
Okay.
Wealth manager, wealth advisor. That is what you do?
Yes.
What does that even mean?
It means everything finance,
Okay.
to be honest with you. So I do things on the defensive side where we just make sure we protect assets, whether that be through life insurance, disability insurance. We cover things for your businesses, or we get into the complicated, more fancy things that everybody wants to do as far as growing money, preparing for retirement, or preparing for a big purchase, or preparing for education. Anything that includes finances, we have a hand in and we can help you out.
So if somebody comes to me and say, hey, I want to buy a house, which is an asset, do they need to come to you?
So they don't need to come to me, but through the connections that we have, it's kind of like a one-stop shop where you can ask multiple questions. Where can I access money from to be able to buy this home? You know, we can set up a timeline if you need to save for a down payment, as well as we have relationships with loan officers and things like that, where it would be the best fit if you go with this person with their programs that they have. Something for everyone.
Okay. All right. So how did you even get into this journey of being a wealth advisor? I mean, is it something that you have to go to college for, or is it something that you've always been passionate about? How do you get to this space right now?
So I'd say I lucked into it. I was in the military and I got a phone call from an advisor.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. I got a phone call from an advisor and he said, hey, one of your mentors mentioned you and thought we would enjoy a meeting. And because they used that mentor as the nominator for me, I was like, well, if they think we should talk, I'll come in and talk with you.
Okay.
Kind of like my clients do, I no-showed the advisor twice. Calendar invites weren't exactly a thing that I was paying attention to. But that third time we actually talked and I was already in the entrepreneur mindset and I was getting out the military soon.
Okay.
And so I was like, hey, I'm not going to partake in any of your strategies right now because I'm just reinvesting in myself.
Okay.
3 days later, they called me back and asked me if I'd like to interview. I interviewed and gave them my true authentic self, no interview prep or anything like that. I fell in love with them. They fell in love with me. And I started my financial planning practice.
Well, so prior to the military, did you ever think that, hey, I want to tell people how to spend their money. I want to tell people how to possibly get rich, right?
So I grew up in an insurance household. My mother did life insurance for a very long time. And I had a feeling that I would enter that industry. I just didn't know how, when, or where. And when this opportunity presented itself, I had several offers to go start my insurance business. But when I told them that I had this offer, they all said, you know what, go learn from them and then you can branch out on your own after that. So I kind of knew I would end up doing it. I didn't know it would be at this level, but I knew I would be in this industry.
Okay. So is there a difference between selling insurance versus being a wealth advisor?
So I think there's 3 types of advisors or people in the financial industry. There are people that only do insurance. There are people that only do investments. And then there are people that do insurance and investments. Okay. And that's what we do. We do everything that our clients need. We don't have to shop you out or send you to someone else. We can take care of everything. Okay.
So when you say we, who are you referring to?
So I have staff. I have junior advisors that I mentor, but mostly my firm. My firm can handle whatever you need.
All right. That's cool. So at what point did you realize that you were going to be in a more of an ownership partner, CEO type of role?
I truly believe in growing where you're planted and mastering your craft of where you're at. Okay. So when I first started, it was just learn the business. There were no aspirations to own a company or anything like that. It was just go be a good advisor. Yeah. And then later, as I learned more about the business, I was like, well, I could do this. You know, I've owned a business before. I've seen the ups and the downs of business. I know the pitfalls to watch out for and things like that. And I was like, all right, it's time to step out on faith and do this.
Okay. All right. So I'll just piggyback off of what you just said. Right. So, I mean, you've obviously worked with a lot of business owners. You see financial habits and you've also had your own businesses, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the pitfalls that you would typically see people make with their businesses?
So I'll speak personally. I had a trucking company, and we started out and things were amazing. It felt like everything I touched turned to gold. I couldn't fail. And I took a small sample size of what we were doing. I was like, if this is how this works, I can just keep replicating this and build this huge industry or this huge company. I didn't take into account all of the cycles of business. With trucking, you had maintenance, you had personnel, people are going to come and go. Your trucks are going to break down, contracts are going to fall through. I just had a string of time where things were great. And I was like, well, let's keep rolling. So I expanded too soon. I thought that I could scale right off the bat. And man, I fell flat on my face. Not only did I scale too fast, but I also moved locations. So the contracts and things that kept us going then were no longer what kept us going, because we started that business in Kansas and now we moved to Florida. Things are a lot different. And so lesson learned, a big lesson. And I would love to say that I wish it didn't happen, but it made me the person that I am now.
Got it.
And so I needed to go through that so that I'm a better advisor when I talk to my clients. So to come back, it's expanding too fast and changing up the dynamics of your business without seeing all of the cycles of business.
So how does someone know when they're scaling too soon? I mean, because especially in my world, right? If you have a firm, if you have a practice that's doing well, right? You have your people, systems, processes, and somehow you're able to perfect that in a year or two. Should they scale? I mean, is that the only metric that they should be evaluating based on the pitfalls that you've seen?
When we go by kind of not using, data or something like that, but just going by the seat of our pants, I'll say this. When you're like, hey, we can make that happen. We can just do more work and do all of this stuff. That one, I'm a little bit leery of you expanding. When you're bursting out the seams, it is a natural progression to expand. You have several offices here. If your team is having to share offices and rent out space and they're sitting out here, it's like, okay, we need a bigger place. That is a natural thing that you need to do versus it's like, all right, well, everybody's comfortable in their offices. We can add 2 more and hire 2 more people. That may be a little bit premature, in my opinion. Going through what I've been through, I'd rather be bursting out the seams and need it instead of being able to facilitate the growth. I need you to need the growth.
Got it. Okay. All right. So earlier you shared that your mom is from Mississippi and you got insurance from her. The insurance gene. Right. And the advising gene from her. And your dad is from Haiti. Tell us a little bit about that dynamic in terms of part Haitian, part American from Mississippi.
Yeah. So there's another key component to add into that, and that would be my stepdad. So my stepdad has been in my life since I was 2 years old. My mother is very entrepreneurial, and so is my biological dad. Right. And then what my stepdad did was he brought in the stability portion. And so he was military, and that's where I followed his footsteps by joining the military as well, under his direction and what I had seen from living on military bases and things like that. So I got a very good mix of both, where it's like, with my mom, we don't know if she's going to get a huge paycheck or no paycheck. And then you have my dad that's rock steady every month. We know what we're going to get. We're going to be able to take care of the baseline. Everything's going to be great. So I got a good mix of both. My entrepreneurial side, I would say, definitely outweighs the conservative side of, hey, let's go get a salary and things like that. But I also recognize the importance of having stability.
The American dream, right? it's safe to say that your position, your company supports that. Is that a unfair assumption, or is that a fair assumption?
I would say that it supports it in the sense that we help you accomplish whatever you want, right? There is no goal of we want to get you to this dollar amount or be able to retire at this age. It is you being able to exercise the freedoms of this country and do whatever you want. We just give you avenues and education on how to achieve that goal.
Okay, fair enough. Do you believe that the American dream is still accessible to newcomers, say people just moving to the country?
I say it is. It is with the information age where you can access everything on the internet and learn at your pace. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
There are a lot of pitfalls and things where you can get sidetracked or distracted that can deter you from your main thing, right? As people say, keep the main thing the main thing.
Yeah.
I've had people come up to me and it's like, hey, why don't we try doing this? Why don't we go into this business? That's not my business. My business is financial planning. I'm going to do that the best I can for as long as I can. And eventually I will spin off and have other things working in the background passively.
Okay.
But as far as me being an active role in something, I am only doing advising.
Okay. So again, on the people who just entered the country, newcomers, or even that 25-year-old who is no longer at their parents' house, right? And they have been fed of an image of the American dream. And there are people out there who say that that system can be rigged because there are so many things to deal with, such as building credit, securing loans, or even just opening a bank account, right? What would your answer be to that? I mean, is the system rigged, or is there still the American dream?
I've always said I don't need it to be easy. I just need it to be worth it.
Okay.
Right. And so by putting obstacles in place, I just think it makes you have to work harder. It's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
But it will be worth it. So I wouldn't say that it's rigged. And I don't think you need a specialty or a complex occupation to achieve that dream. One of my mentors that I look up to has a landscaping company.
Yeah.
And this guy, I call and ask him for any advice that I need. He has achieved many accomplishments that I hope to be able to check the box on. And he's only a few years older than me. But
Nice.
He started the company when he was 12 years old or something like that. I
Wow.
may be misspeaking with that. But he started very early to the point where he decided that college was not the way for him to go, but he needed to develop his business. And his name is Andy Nelson out of Oklahoma. Like, look up to him. I'm a big car guy.
Yeah.
And he's had some very nice toys that I hope to be able to have one day. And just the way he carries himself, the way he treats his family, I think he's a very admirable person. And again, he started with a landscaping company.
Interesting. So I have to put a pin right here. So, I mean, I met you at Cars and Coffee, right? You say you're a big car fan. Why Lamborghini?
Oh, man. So I'm a Taurus, right? My birthday's in May.
Okay. Raging Bull?
I have a bull tattoo.
Really?
I do. And it was a bucket list item that I had to check.
Yeah.
I don't know how long it's going to stay there. I don't know, what the next one will be or anything like that. But for now, I'm enjoying it. And my kids like it.
I love to see it. I heard you before I saw you.
Yeah.
All right. So back to the original topic. So you help people to secure their futures, right? But a lot of people, whether they have grown up in the U.S. or they are immigrants in the country, right? They get trapped into this debt cycle, right? The great American debt with credit cards, right? Do you think the financial industry exploits people, or it's just people don't have the proper knowledge?
I think people lack discipline.
Okay.
Right. Credit cards can be a useful tool. I want my clients to be a deadbeat to credit card companies. I want them to pay off the balance every month. And it was like, well, we didn't collect any interest off of that person. You know, hopefully they'll slip up and their interest will, their discipline will falter at some point, and we'll be able to collect some interest, right? These are pretty smart consumers when it comes to credit. And then you have the person where, I'll be honest, I was one when I was 18.
Yeah.
My parents tried to help me out by putting me on their lines of credit to build credit for myself. I had a Best Buy credit card when I was young.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I had a Best Buy credit card when I was like 16. And when that new Honda Accord, hit my driveway, I went and got a Sony Explode amp and all this stuff. But my parents told me the importance of paying on time, right? And so when I hit 18, here comes American Express. And I remember I called them. I said, what's my limit? And they said, there is no limit. I was like, okay, what's my interest rate? There is no interest rate.
Yeah.
I was like, but it was a charge card.
Yeah.
So they want the entire thing. I was like, man, at this point I had upgraded from the Accord to the Civic. I had a girlfriend. I was like, hey, you want to go to sushi? All this stuff. Yeah. And end of the month comes and they're like, hey, we need that balance. I was like, okay, what's my minimum? They was like, all of it. I was like, so definitely educating.
Yeah.
Education is the missing piece to making people use credit the right way.
Okay. So cash versus credit, right? You have the older generation who says, hey, do everything cash, have no debt at all, right? You have the younger generation who says, hey, have as much debt as possible to invest, to grow, to expand. Is there a balance, or is there a winner and a loser where cash versus debt comes to play?
There is good debt and there's bad debt, right? If your debt is cash flowing or making money for you, then I would consider that a good debt. Okay. If that debt just prolonged and increased how much you have to pay, I would consider that bad debt. Cash versus credit, or I would say cash versus leverage. I don't try to change people's minds. Yeah. Whatever, and I listen to their goals, their desires, their upbringings of what they believe in. And if they are a cash person, I educate them on the ramifications of if you use cash versus investing that money, and just, especially if you have a low rate. And, when I meet people and they say, hey, I want to pay my house off fast. And the first thing I ask them is, what's your interest rate? If you have a 2% interest rate, I'm going to put some figures in front of you to see if you still feel that way. I just educate. Yeah. I educate you and let you choose the route you want to go.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. So some people say that there is a wealth inequality in the U.S., right? What are your thoughts on that? Because some may say, yes, one is there, but it's shrinking. And some say, hey, it still continues to grow.
I definitely think it's there. And I do not think it's going anywhere.
Okay.
Because, again, education. If someone makes bad financial decisions, they have children, their children see what their parents did, and they're just going to replicate it.
Absolutely.
Right? And so without that education piece of, it's okay to make that mistake, but then tell your children, hey, this is where I messed up. You should probably do it this way. It's just going to keep repeating itself.
Okay.
And so I have aspirations for my kids where I think each generation should improve. Absolutely. And my parents did the best job they could teaching me about finances and things like that. And so I'm going to impart more knowledge to my children because they're going to start from a different point than I did. And
exactly.
The education is going to be even more important.
Absolutely.
Because the more resources they have, the more trouble they can get into. And so I got to make sure that they're using it the right way and becoming overall great people.
Good answer. So in terms of the wealth gap still increasing, right? You've now seen the middle class was transitioned to more investments, to more 401ks, right? Do you think these are tools to actually keep the middle class, while the so-called upper class manipulate the system, or it's a leap from class to class?
I would say the mindset of the generations are changing.
Mm-hmm.
It's no longer, hey, let's wait until work until we're 65, retire, pass away at 80. Hopefully we got some good traveling or just enjoyed ourselves for those 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
People are seeking retirement resources or financial freedom at a much earlier age, which causes them to have to utilize different resources to get there.
Yeah.
With the typical 401k, you're not supposed to touch it until you're 59 and a half. Well, what if you don't want to work that long?
Yeah.
What if you want to retire at 50? Now we got 9.5 years where you don't have access to that money without penalty. There are certain situations where you can still access it. But even more so, people are doing a lot of investing early on. And there are some people that retire even earlier than 50, 40, 45. I wouldn't say that those type of accounts do well for them. So I don't think that the financial system has caught up to the generational mindset shift that we are now encountering.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Okay.
With all of the restrictions that are so high in age, I don't think that we are set up for success to retire early and live life more. And those systems are in place for the older generation of, hey, I put in my 25 years at this job and they'll take care of me.
Okay. Interesting. So I'll stick up in right there, right? So the older generation, right?
Mm-hmm.
The boomers, they're the ones who said, hey, save, sock it away, then enjoy your vacation when you leave the company after working for 45 years
Mm-hmm.
and go to vacations and fall asleep while you're in Italy, right? But no, you have the younger generation where you have the influencers, you have the millennials, the Gen Zs who are like, no, I want a vacation right now. I want to turn up right now. Which model do you think is more beneficial? And or do you see this current generation that's vacationing now, posting, influencing, and all that, they will have problems when it comes on to 65 plus and not having the resources and the tenacity to work?
There are so many different ways to shape what retirement looks like,
Mm-hmm.
right? For retirement, for someone, they may need $10,000 a month. They may still have a mortgage and things like that. Whereas someone would be like, hey, I'm going to have RV. I need $2,500 a month
Mm-hmm.
to live. And so it's hard to say which is right or which is which. My personal opinion is I'm not working until I'm 65 and then I want to go enjoy things.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a great example of hard work in my family, and I've had an example of entrepreneurship where it affords you time here and now.
Yeah.
So I want my kids to experience things, and I want to experience things with my kids so that they're not waiting until they're adults to have that first encounter of, oh wow, this is living.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I got 2 daughters, so I want to be a little bit extra fancy. So when that little boy rolls up and he's like, oh, I'm taking your daughter. She's like, what? My dad already took me,
Exactly.
So it is, again, I don't push people to one side or the other. I just help you do what you want to do, when you want to do it, how you want to do it.
Got it. So, all right. So say someone like Angelo right here.
Okay.
All right. Angelo is 20. Should he start planning for retirement right now?
So I would ask Angelo more questions.
All right.
All right. So 1, when do you want to retire? The sooner you start, the cheaper it is.
Okay.
Right. So if he was like, no, I want to work until I'm 50, it's
Mm-hmm.
pretty inexpensive for him to start right now. But if he was 42 and was like, I want to retire when I'm 50, I'm like, dude, you're going to have to save your entire paycheck.
Yeah.
If that's going to be enough.
So if Angelo wants to retire when he's 50, how much would he have to start with right now?
So we got to think about. So I have what's called like I have 5 points when I talk to people. I need to know, how old are you now? When do you want to retire? What do you have now? What do you want to have when you retire? And what resources do you have to get you from that point A to point B?
Okay.
With those answers, we can decide how much risk you need to take, because that is going to be the equalizer in this equation. If you want to start later, you may have to take more risk to make up that ground.
Okay.
But if you start early, you can just go nice and steady. Everything's going to be all right. Slow base hits. You don't need any home runs.
Okay. So Angelo wants to retire at 50, right? He wants to have the 9/11 paid off. He wants to have the condo in Medellin.
Oh, all right.
And he wants to have his house down here in Claremont, right? Okay. Just give us a baseline number for that type of lifestyle for a 20-year-old to start right now. What's like a tangible number that you can give us for a profile like that?
I really wish I could. I wish I could give you a number for that. I wish I could give you a number for that.
It depends.
It depends. It depends, right? Because you can do more, you can save more, again, and take less risk. Or you can save less and take higher risk.
Okay.
Right? You could take $5 every day and play the lottery for the next 30 years. You might hit it. Right? But that's you got to take a lot of risk because you're using a little bit of money.
Okay.
Right? Versus you're like, hey, I got $1,000 a month that I can put towards something. Then, all right, let's look at how we're going to first take care of setting the baseline to make sure that life cannot score on you, because our plans don't always go as planned. Let's say that Angelo comes golfing with me or something. We flip the golf cart and now he can't go to work. Right. Of course, that's where you would come in. But it's like, all right, well, now your income is not coming in. Do you move back in with your parents, or did you have something in place that's going to replace your income?
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
So the conversation, is it a similar conversation with, like, say, Carlos coming to you right here? Carlos is somewhere between 21 and 35, right? Yeah. With the same conversation with Carlos, who, has his own business, has a wife, children, wants to retire with his condo, beach house, and ranch, but he hasn't started anything yet. He hasn't started planning for any type of retirement. How would that conversation typically go for someone who is, not Angelo at age 20?
Different strokes for different folks.
Yeah.
Right. I work with people of vast resource levels. And so some people, they may not bat an eye when I tell them, hey, you're going to have to invest $200,000 a year. Right. Where some people is like, man, I'm trying to get to that earning potential of getting that.
Yeah.
And so the conversation changes because now we're talking about the types of accounts that you're able to access. Yeah. We talk about taxation. We talk about legacy planning, right? It may be as different as Carlos wants children and Angelo doesn't, right? So then we have to have a different conversation. What is your intentions for your lifestyle with children? Things like that. Some people, they build, sell. And so their income happens all at once. Yeah. Versus some is very linear where they just earn, and with cost of living, it goes up over time. But we plan, if Angelo comes to me and is like, hey, I want to retire on the feeling of, say, $3 million a year.
Yeah.
But right now he's only making $500 a year.
Yeah.
And he is going to sell his company right before retirement. And so we're going to account for that. It's like, all right, this is with the sale of your company or with the big sale of your home. One of my best clients, they're planning to live abroad in retirement. And so they have all of this equity built up in their home that is going to be a windfall into their portfolio. When he retires, they sell their home and they're going to live abroad. And that's going to be, 7-figure increases into their net worth.
Got it. Okay. All right. So changing gears. So social media, right, has glamorized wealth, right? You have the whole crypto scene with meme coins and like everything is like a get rich scheme. How do you think this is empowering people, or do you think it is setting them up for disaster?
It's definitely creating opportunity.
Okay.
But again, we have to incorporate some discipline in there.
Yeah.
And I will say that fast money, when it comes fast, it leaves fast. And you got to have some discipline to capture it there. I like to be my client's conscience.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to tell me some great dream of yours, and I'm going to support you in that dream. But I'm going to be in a position, or I'm going to put you in a position to be more than okay if that doesn't happen. Okay. All right. If you say, hey, crypto is going to be the next greatest thing, and I'm going to build my wallet and I'm going to be a millionaire. All right, let's do it. But in the meantime, let's make sure that this box is taken care of, this is taken care of, this is taken care of.
Okay.
I hope that happens, but just in case it doesn't, you're not going to fall flat on your face.
Yeah.
I think I get that mindset from maybe my failure in the trucking company or my lessons learned in the trucking company, because I had high aspirations of what I could do for that.
Yeah.
But there was no floor in place to stop me when everything came crashing down. I fell all the way to the bottom.
Wow.
So, again, happened for a reason, so I can better advise my clients. And it's great that these opportunities exist now. But I want to make sure that we are, the higher you go, we're putting that safety in place so that you can't fall that far.
Okay. So is the financial industry, or do you believe that the financial industry is failing to protect people from predatory trends?
I don't say that they're failing to protect people, because we have a lot of compliance checks and balances that we go through with positions that we put our clients in. I'm not the end all be all of saying, hey, this is where your money is going.
Yeah.
Someone is looking like, hey, this makes sense, or are you sure about that?
Yeah.
Right. So it just gives you the ability to achieve that American dream, right? It gives you the ability to do whatever you want. And some people, they chase the dream without the education. And so that's what I think creates a pitfall in the financial services industry, where if you don't do your due diligence, you could end up with a bad person or something like that.
And one could say that you would be the tool of due diligence, correct?
Yep. So I would, there are many different ways to look up the credentials of your advisor and things like that.
Yeah.
And I am very transparent and an open book when it comes to my trucking business and how that has affected my life, but also how that has influenced my planning. And you're able to check up on your financial professional and make sure that they're credentialed to give the advice that they're giving you.
Awesome. All right. So earlier you said like the American dream. One question that I wanted to jump in on: do you think the American dream has created this hustle culture, right, where it's like a go, 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 and there isn't that moment to actually stop, appreciate things in the moment, family, friends, peace?
It can definitely be that way.
Yeah.
Where it can be that way where, I don't believe there's work-life balance. I don't believe in that. One is going to always outweigh the other, in my opinion. My goal right now is to try to keep it as close as I can, because I have young kids that I have to be present for. And my wife will let me know if I'm being on the phone too much. And so I will say that that go that you see allows for more leisure possibly in the future. By the same token, you can space it out and do more go, leisure. But that means that you have to do the go for longer.
Yeah.
Right. So it's all about what that person wants, the support system they have at home. Sometimes when it's a crucial point in our lives, I'll let my wife know, hey, I'm about to be busy for an extended period of time. We got this goal that we're working towards, things like that. And that lets her know that she may have to help me out on the other side of it.
So the
as
communication is key.
Communication, right? So the partnership. By the same token, she'll let me know, it's like, hey, we're sending the kids to a lot of camps this summer and things like that. So you need to go to work. I'm like, all right, got it.
Exactly.
So again, communication.
All right. Here's a more serious question for you, right? What is the biggest financial trap that you see immigrants and or minorities face today?
The inability to change. So they'll come here, and this is mostly, I guess, for the older generation.
Yeah.
They'll have their set ways, what they believe, whether it's cash only, right, or it's work until 70 or things like that. And they will not accept a different way of doing things.
Yeah.
But they don't necessarily have to. What they want to do is what they want to do. To add to that, trust, right? So either they don't trust anyone or they trust too easily.
That's a really, really good point, man.
And there has to be a balance in between. You have to know who to put your trust in.
Yeah.
Because I love when my clients say, hey, well, this is my goal is for my clients to say this. I don't know much about this, but we trust that you're going to do the right thing for us.
Yeah.
Because my moral compass is where it should be. And I'm going to make sure that I do the best job for them, because if you do wrong by someone, they'll tell 10 people. But if you do right, they'll tell 2, right? So I want to make sure that I stay constantly being referable.
Yeah.
But it's the not trusting enough or trusting too much. You got to find the balance. And sometimes luck plays a part in that. But again, another one is education.
All day. So there's a notion, right, that minorities, Black and brown people, they have been shut out of generational wealth building tools, right? Do you believe that in your role, right, as a wealth advisor, do you feel like you're helping to fix the system or helping people to survive a broken one?
Great question. So I'll say this. So I am from a very, very small town in Itabena, Mississippi.
Yeah.
All right. No red lights, no grocery stores. Most people there still call me by my nickname from when I was like 4 years old.
Yeah.
And then I moved from there to California.
Yeah.
Big culture shift.
Yeah.
From the way that I talked, people's like, what did you say? And being exposed to all these different things, I got my first taste of In-N-Out Burger. And I got to see things done completely different.
Yeah.
And then we moved to Georgia from there. And Georgia was like a great mix of the two. It was like right in the middle. It wasn't too rural where I'm not getting opportunities or I can't play sports until a certain age, things like that. But also it wasn't like, hey, I'm the only, African American in my class. So it was a great mix. And then I got down to, I did ROTC at Florida State.
Okay.
And now here comes a whole nother side of things that are possible. One of my friends, his dad dropped off an airplane so that he could build time, because he was an aspiring pilot, which he's a pilot now, but he was an aspiring pilot for, he was going to build time to increase his chances of getting a pilot slot. And we would take the plane and fly to Georgia and come back. And I'm like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Like we could have
Like
took my
people
Civic.
live like this. Yeah.
We could have took my Civic to do this.
Yes.
And so with that exposure, I don't think that me being African American held me back from any of those. It was just the environment that I was in.
Got it.
Right? And your environment affects your mindset. And my kids are biracial, and I love Orlando because for some reason before my kids talk, they think they're Dominican. But when they talk, it's like, oh yeah, you're not Dominican. It's like, no, they don't speak Spanish, know. But it kind of erases that racial divide that could happen in certain cultures. And so to answer your point, I will say that I'm helping to build a more robust system.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say that I'm canceling out a system. I am educating as much as I can, mm-hmm. because you can live whatever life you want in whatever environment you want if you know that's possible.
Yeah.
That Mississippi kid would have never imagined that ROTC Florida State kid doing what he was doing.
That's awesome.
I was just placed in that environment.
Yeah. And that's that point that you made, right? That your environment impacts your mindset, and your mindset impacts your reality, right? One of the biggest mindset challenges that I faced when I moved here from Jamaica, right? Came from Jamaica, where most people look like me, right? But you have all the socioeconomic classes, right? You have the lower class, middle class, upper class, right? But one thing that we know is work, right? You work, you see something you want, you go for it. So that's always been my mindset, especially as an athlete. Then I moved to the US, and there are also people that look like me, but they are not from the Caribbean. And their mindset, what I learned initially, is a little bit different. It's of a mindset that, hey, we have to work twice as hard, mm-hmm. because we started behind, and there are still things that are holding us back. But I was like, I don't see anything holding us back. But I can identify with that because I grew up where the prime minister, the lawyers, the doctors, they all look like me. Versus here, the person who grew up here, who is African American, most people in power, people of wealth, they don't look like them. So they're led to believe that they have started behind, and they have to work 2-3 times as hard to get ahead, but there's still challenges in place. For me, based on my trajectory here, I didn't really see any challenges that were put before me or existing. It's only the ones that it's just, that's the road. Everybody has to go that same road and overcome the same challenges. So that's my thought. So to transition to that, do you believe in your role that there should be more concessions in terms of loans in the financial industry? Do you believe that there should be some type of repatriation type of financial concessions for minorities, including Native Americans?
Man, that's a tough question.
Yeah.
That's a great question. I also believe the way that you do.
Yeah.
I wanted to work twice as hard, but it was not to be the status quo. It's because mm-hmm. I wanted to be the best.
Yeah.
At the big corporation that I was at, they would have everyone ranked, racked and stacked, but then they would break them out and have like African American culture or conference or Asian conference and things like that. And then you get a new ranking. So let's say I was number 40, overall, but now I'm number 2. In my mind, no, I'm number 40. Mm-hmm. You don't have to hit the filter button to make me feel better about myself.
Yeah.
Let me go get it. Show me what the top 10 looks like. I have access to all of the things that they do or that they can implement. Let's go do it. And so to answer your question, should there be certain concessions? I will say that there should be more concentration on giving them the right tools than putting a Band-Aid over their lack of resources.
Exactly.
That is what I would say. So, for example, school I went to in Mississippi, some of the best athletes I've ever seen, but the strength and conditioning program was non-existent. Like the weight room wasn't there. Yeah. Right. So at a certain point, their talent couldn't overcome someone else's talent plus the preparation of the weight room and things like that. Yeah. So tell you what, instead of just setting aside a certain number of scholarships for this school, let's give them a nice weight room so that they can compete on the same level. So that's what I would say to that is let's not Band-Aid it at the top. Let's take care of it more at the root. Okay.
I don't want to have you in the hot seat too much, but since we're on this topic, right?
Okay.
The current administration removed DEI. And that kind of lends into what we're discussing. Do you think that helps minorities, or do you think it hurts? Because there's one side that can say, hey, it's a mindset thing, right? Even if you offer repatriations, if every Black person was to get some funds for slavery, right, it would solve the issues. And some would say yes. Most would say no, because there's a mindset, right? And just like a person who has won the lottery, if they don't have the proper financial education, they're going to go back to square one or worse. So is removing DEI helpful, or does it hurt? Like, does it really give people like myself, immigrants, minorities, to be like, hey, you have to lace your boots up, put your gloves off, and work just as hard as the person next to you, whether they look like you or not?
You know, everything isn't perfect. And in my house, I say this a lot. I say it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And
that's a good point.
It's not exactly what they did, but how they did it. To just be like, boom, it's gone. No, that's not how you do it. I think that there should have been a clear, concise layout of intentions. Yeah. And then if that's where we wanted to go, there should have been progression instead of just pulling, the carpet out from under them. Yeah. I think that it could have been done a lot different. If that's what they wanted to do, it could have been done a lot different. I don't think that it was beneficial in any way, the way that they did it. The way that they did it, it was like, man, now we've created another problem. Now I'm such a kumbaya, everybody let's get along person. Now we've just gone drastically this way. I don't like to do drastic moves. Let's make slight corrections and let them work themselves back to center. And
I like that answer. It's very insightful.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna say if it was 100% right or wrong, because I don't know the reasons behind it and stuff, because they cut a lot of other things as well. But as minorities, that one stood out to us a lot. Okay. But it could have been done a lot differently. Okay. Especially, I graduated from an HBCU. It's like, man, this is, HBCUs are a form of that. Yeah. Are you going to cut schools and things like that too? It's like, let's put together a well thought out instead of, all right, this is gone, this is gone, this is gone.
I like that. I like that answer. All right. So as we wrap up, we're approaching tax season, right? What does that look like in your world right now? How do you assist your clients when it comes on to tax season? Because you have two set of people, right? You have the people who, when it's tax time, they are excited because they're because they're going to get a big return, or they're going to get some type of return, and then you will have the other set of people who dread it.
Yes. So, at this time, most of our work is done because we like to be proactive.
Yeah.
This should have been taken care of January through December of last year and not April 15th or whenever the deadline is this year. And so, but to speak to the people that are excited about getting returns, I always wish for my clients or people that I educate to not get a return.
Okay.
Because you're giving the government an interest-free loan that they're just giving you your money back. So let's try to get that return as close to zero as possible so that you have this disposable income in your monthly budget to make the best decisions for your family.
Break that down somewhere, because I know there are going to be some people listening and say, man, you are crazy. What are you talking about? I have 5, 6, 7, 8 bands that's coming my way, and you're going to tell me that I should work my paycheck down or have a strategy to where I'm getting zero?
Yes. So let's say, let's use round numbers. So let's say 12. So let's say you get $12,000 back.
Yeah.
Would you rather wait and get $12,000 back that they're just giving you your 12, or would you rather had an extra $1,000 per month that you could have put towards savings, getting your emergency fund in order, or putting into accounts that earn interest that benefit you instead of them just giving you your exact money back? They're not giving you interest, just giving you exactly what you overpaid.
Interesting. See, that's a good way to look at it. A while ago, you mentioned emergency saving funds, right? How would you advise someone who say, hey, I just prefer to invest this in stocks and no emergency saving funds? Or you have the person who's like, hey, I prefer to have that sitting there and nothing in stocks, or minimal in stocks.
So we always have to look at worst case scenario.
Yeah.
If 2022 happens again and we're down double digits in the market, and let's say you had $1,000 in the market, you lost 20%, now you have $800 and you needed $900 for a bill. If you would have had that sitting in savings, and that's the only thing that you have, you could have taken care of that need.
Yeah.
But because you were risky with it, now you're $100 short. And so I say, let's get to your emergency fund, and then we transfer the risk of lack of income or lack of resources to, say, like a disability policy. And then we put the other money to work. We may not be locking it away in a 401k until you're 60, but let's put it in a way that's more advantageous for your portfolio so we can take advantage of the capitalistic environment that we live in.
Okay. All right. So you've managed millions, right? And money is tied to dreams, aspirations, emotions, right? What is the most emotionally difficult moment you faced in this job where you had to change the way how you advise somebody?
If I could change the question a little bit and say, what's the biggest emotional challenge that I face in doing my job? It's when when I'm advising someone and they take advice from someone else that is in a different position than they are in, different perspective and everything, and they tell them that's a bad move. It may be a bad move for them, but it's a great move for you because you're two different people, two different lifestyles, you have two different income levels, things like that. So what works for one person doesn't work for another.
So basically what I'm hearing you saying, it's like you have the son or daughter that's like, hey, mom and dad, I'm going to be a multimillionaire. These are the things that I'm going to do. And you have mom and dad who they've made in their entire lives $200,000 saying, no, this is the way you should do it because I know better.
Mm-hmm.
So how can they even advise on being a multimillionaire?
So that's one example.
Yeah.
I would say another example is we can take, let's call it 2 attorneys.
Mm-hmm.
One attorney has student loans. One attorney does not.
Mm-hmm.
One attorney has 5 rental properties where if they stop practicing, they're going to have a steady stream of income. One attorney does not, right? They're doing the same job, making the same money, but they have 2 different perspectives on how to accomplish a financial goal. So I could recommend something that would be, because again, being behind the power curve, you have to either take more risk or deploy more resources towards it, but you have the same amount of resources. So we have to increase your risk to get you to where that person was. And now this person's like, no, don't do that. That's crazy. It's like, well, you don't have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You have all of these other things going for you. You don't have $150,000 in student loans.
Yeah.
So that is one emotional thing where they listen to other people.
Yeah.
And it's like, this was designed specifically for you. This person may not even understand it.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll say another, one emotional shift that I personally had to make was allowing people to have more risk, because I came first from an insurance background, and it comes from very conservative. But being able to put in risk into someone's portfolio or initiate risk from an educated and knowledgeable standpoint, where although you introduced more risk, you did it in a less risky way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was the biggest mindset shift that I've had to make in my career.
Interesting. All right. Why do financial advisors matter? Why should I listen to you? Or why should the kid that just graduated from college, got their first job, listen to you versus an accountant or YouTube?
So YouTube, love YouTube. I credit them to my meat smoking career. So love to smoke meat. So I will say that listening to me allows you to go be you without worrying about the stuff that I have to worry about. It allows you to specialize. And imagine if you had to go tax harvest your own portfolio. You had to pick your own investments. You had to watch the market and do all of that stuff. How good of an attorney would you be able to be? Because there's only 24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
You have children and a family as well. It would decrease the amount of time that you're able to spend on the important things, because now you got to do this. And so that's where my value proposition comes into play. Even more so now, we do things where even if you are financially savvy or educated in the market, there are certain positions and securities that we invest in that you as a non-credentialed or non-licensed person don't have access to.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the value proposition of working with a financial advisor. I keep you honest. It's like having a coach.
Yeah.
I'm an athlete, and I think that I can go to the gym by myself and do all this stuff, but I know that there is an aspect of my fitness that I am missing out on because I haven't employed a professional to help me with.
I like that. All right. So we're almost there. So some people say, right, that in 2025 onwards, AI will replace human financial planners, right? Do you think the algorithms can really understand the struggles of a single mom, the millionaire CEO that's trying to retire, or the immigrant, or anybody that is trying to build, or someone that is trying to rebuild? Is this field replaceable?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. The empathy part of this career, from anywhere from, the bad things that happen, like losing a loved one or disabling events and things like that. There's an empathy part of this where you want someone that can navigate you through these trying times instead of just giving you a checklist to knock out.
Yeah.
Instead of just saying, all right, this is due, or there's a human touch that is needed in this career field, I feel.
Okay, but somebody's going to say, hey, the AI will not make a mistake. The AI will be thinking 10, 15 steps ahead of the human financial advisor, and they will be able to read the markets, assess my risk much faster, and be significantly more efficient. What do you say to that person?
We're dealing with humans. We're not fixing cars. We're not doing things. We're dealing with humans, and it's a very delicate thing where you may feel this way one day and change it the next. There could be something that happens and changes your mindset at the drop of a dime. And for example, sometimes I'll talk to my clients about life insurance, and they have no inclination to do it. They don't want to do it. And then there's a death in their family, and they see the toll that it takes on their family. And they call me back. I was like, all right, I want to do that. Right.
Wow.
If you tell the AI person, no, I don't want to do that, are they going to follow up with you and say, because I monitor my social media. I don't just have clients. I make them extended friends.
Yeah.
And if I see something happening, I'm going to reach out.
Yeah.
Is that AI person going to reach out and say, hey, I'm so sorry to hear about your grandmother?
It's true. True. I was going to wrap up, but since you said life insurance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Term life versus whole life. What's the difference, right, for our viewers? And then some people think that whole life insurance is a scam.
Okay. So the difference is, I say with term life insurance, you get a lot of coverage for relatively inexpensive, but there are no living benefits to it. You pay your premiums, and then if you pass away, it pays out. All right. You can also outlive term life insurance. When it comes to whole life insurance, there are many different facets of whole life insurance. You have whole life, you have universal life, variable universal life, index universal life, all these different things where a conversation will determine which one is the best for you. But with whole life, it's like buying your home, right? If you pay into it, it's more expensive, but for two reasons. One, the life insurance company knows that they're not getting out of this contract. It's for your whole life. Nobody makes it out of here alive, right? So that policy is going to have to pay out at some point. And let's say that you've had this policy for 30 years and you decide, I don't want it anymore. If it was a term policy, it was purely an expense. With whole life, there's a cash value that you're going to be able to recoup that will more than likely be at or above the money you put in.
Yeah.
In addition, there are many different tools of whole life as far as tax-free distributions and retirement and things like that. But I think that whole life, it has to fit the right person.
Yeah.
Whole life is not right for everyone.
Yeah. And I'm glad we ended on this note, because for me, it's like your financial knowledge will always determine your wealth, right? For me, I always thought, like, especially like in my 20s, I always thought that life insurance was, hey, you pay this $20, $30, $100 a month, just so that when you pass away, somebody else will benefit. Not knowing that there is a vehicle in which you can get that same benefit that is going to take care of your loved ones, but there's also a tool for generating wealth. Like, I had no idea, and I'm sure there's going to be somebody here that didn't know that you can use whole life insurance as an investment. You can get compound interest. You can have a cash value. You can actually take it out, put it back, and take loans against it. So it's actually the mindset, the need to go after financial knowledge, accuracy, but the right people like you.
The right people, because whole life policies can be designed in a way that is more advantageous for the advisor, where they get a lot of commissions and things like that, which sometimes that happens, but it's because the policy was designed to meet the intentions, and that's just how it happened. But we got to make sure that it's designed the right way for the right person, and it is an amazing tool. It will always be a part of my portfolio. It has been for the last 5 to 8 years, and it'll be going forward, my kids, and so on and so forth.
Awesome. Last question, I promise. Your 18-year-old self, if you could go back and tell 18-year-old Raz with the handle, what would you tell him?
It's going to be all right.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of doors in my mind, or failures, perceived as failures, were not failures. They were redirections, because I wasn't meant to go there.
Yeah.
It wasn't meant to happen for me. I wasn't meant to go to the NFL. Like, as good as I think I was not meant to do that. All right. And it's not like I was really, I was that good or where I got cheated or something. But a big part of my life now is sitting and listening to what God is telling me. Because when something is not happening, it's for a reason.
Yeah.
All right. Do the best you can. If it doesn't happen, keep it moving.
I love it.
And I tell my 18-year-old self that peace is more important than money.
Woo.
Peace is more important than money, but I needed to go through all those things that I went through until now to get there.
I love it. I love it. Where can people find you, Raz?
So we're here in Orlando. We have social media. You can either go to our website, which is thesmartfinancialplan.com. You can look us up on Instagram, The Smart Financial Plan. My name personally, so I have my personal page up there. I think I'm the only Razell, Razell that comes up. And yeah, hit us up online or give us a call, email.
Yeah. Or they'll hear you in the Lambo, right?
It's pretty loud.
All right. Thank you so much for coming, Raz.
Thank you for having me.
Amazing convo.
Thank you.
Yeah. This is a good convo.